Hi everyone, it's Patrick. So Angie brought up a question about pretty much a learning management system, and the question is essentially, when do you use one? Why do you use it? Why do you need it? And unfortunately, the book touches on it, but it is kind of that it's not always clear because the reality is sometimes you don't need a learning management system at all, and it's not always a matter of do you want to do self-paced training versus teacher-led, because almost any self-paced training out there, or course, if you want to use a different word, or a workshop, could be housed within a learning management system. So, at its basic level, what a learning management system is, and is they first were called content management systems. Sometimes they were called learning content management systems. They've been called lots of different things. A course management system, they've also been called, but it's just a place to be able to put content as part of it. But I would argue an even more important part of that learning management systems, especially as we have them today, is to be able to track people. I mean, that's to be able to track when they log in, track who can log in, when they can log in, and to be able to track the results of, for instance, tests. So, there are other obviously benefits and uses of a learning management system, but at its core, that's what a learning management system does. Is it allows you to deliver education, training, professional development within a closed system, right? And it becomes more important when you imagine that you are a K-12 school and you have to offer courses, or maybe you don't offer online courses, that is, but maybe you don't even offer online courses. Maybe they're hybrid, or maybe they're what sometimes are called web enhanced, right? And so, because there's other great benefits of a learning management system. Because if I'm teaching a classroom-based course, I can upload all my files in there and they're in one place, and I don't have to make 80 million copies, right? There's also a grade book. I mean, so there's a lot of basic things that regardless of the type of education you're involved in, a learning management system can make your life easier. It also makes it where you don't have to know HTML and a lot of the hard stuff involved with web development. And so, for a lot of people without a learning management system, they wouldn't be able to offer hybrid or online courses. It is what makes it easy for them to get in there and do it. And so, the question is, do you need it or not? Well, it depends, right? And so, you can think of almost any topic where it could be done self-paced outside of a learning management system, and that would be something you would just develop, for instance, in Dreamweaver, or maybe use another tool like Captivate, though Captivate alone without Dreamweaver or something else would be hard to do a complete course, but people do it, right? And you'd upload it to a web server or to an intranet or you name it. So here's an example of a course I did, or we saw it more as a workshop or a module that is on academic integrity. And so this is something I developed at my old job, and it's a self-paced course, right, that you can go through. Now, we developed this because we wanted it to be able to stand outside of the learning management system. We actually used two at my last job. But we also wanted other faculty to be able to put them in the learning management system if they want. And at the end, there's a test. But the final, why there are little quizzes in between this, right? And so if I go to, cheating, and actually let's just go through these real quick. At the end of cheating, there's a little quiz that's just basically check your knowledge. And because this isn't in a learning management system, it's not tied up to a database or this or that. The results are not kept anywhere. And so we're done with it, the individual after the modules, that's not kept anywhere. The way that we could also keep track of what a student does, right, was to have, so here's an example where, you write in there, it gives you an answer, okay. That's just self-assessment, right? At the end, there's a final quiz that's actually housed in the learning management systems. And so any instructor could add this to the beginning part of their course and tell their students they have to do this, right? And so what it did is allow the university, school department, at whatever level, and faculty to be able to add this content, this module, if you will, on academic integrity, but then they could also choose whether they wanted or not to track through a final quiz if students did it. So that's an example of a self-paced course that this could be done within a learning management system or without. But then there are other topics like I'm trying to think of like debate, right? So if you're going to have a course on debate, it really should have more than one person because you want two people for a debate to happen, right? And so for a debate to happen, that type of course, while there are ways to do it in a self-paced environment, that really should be a facilitated course with multiple students, right? And so that's an example of a course that'd be tough to do, not impossible, tough to do without a learning management system. You could use social media. There's lots of ways you can do it, but that would be an example of a course that it wouldn't make sense to do from in a self-paced way. So part of it depends on the content you choose and what you want to do. Um, if we go back to, her question is she's doing something on visual literacy. So that could be done really all three ways. So then the question becomes, you know, for instance, in this course, in Angie's case, is she was developing a course on visual literacy that we might plug into our courses here, and she might actually see people use it. Then something like this format, self-paced, they'd be able to plug in would work real well. But at the same time, something you all need to think of as when you choose whatever project you're going to do is recognize that what do you want that next job to be? And so, for instance, if you want to work in higher ed, online courses such as those that are built in a learning management system are something that instructional designers or educational technologists have to do a lot of, and you need experience doing that. And so many of you, while we like to think of it as, and pure instructional designers will say, oh, your learning objectives will dictate everything, right? You'll do a needs analysis and you'll just know whether it needs to be in a learning management system or not. The reality is that's not always true in my experience, right? So you will have to, each of you, make a decision whether it makes sense to use a learning management system or not for your course project. For many of you, it will make sense. And what might be harder is deciding which one. And so if your organization has one, it might make sense to use that. You just have to make it so we can get in with a guest login. Others might find you want us to set up you a Moodle course shell, which we can do. You also, if you have your own personal web space, on my own web space, I can click, few buttons, boom, I can have my own Moodle installation on my own private server. Options out there, and then there's everything from Edmodo to Instructure has an open option, Blackboard has one, but it's limited on like how many people can log in. I forget all the details, and so we're going to dive into some of this next week. But keep these questions coming, right? This question: when do you use a learning management system? At its basic level, a more pragmatic answer is depends whether you want to track learners coming in or out in completion or not. If you do, then a learning management system makes sense as a place to start. Then the question is, do you want to be teacher facilitated or self-paced learner? And the reality is these are all basic little things that we're setting up as either ors. And the reality is these categories, you could have a facilitated course that's self-paced elements. I took one as during my doctoral studies on qualitative research. So we blend these categories all the time. But hopefully this helps give you all something to go on and let me know what questions you have. Thanks.